Beyond the numbers, the emotional currency of Black women's financial empowerment. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Dr. Anita R. Johnson, and I'm still processing the profound wisdom she shared. If you don't know Dr. Johnson, she is nothing short of revolutionary, a pioneering financial behaviorist whose work has fundamentally transformed how we understand Black women's relationship with money. Her Affluence Financial Fitness for Women program isn't just another financial literacy initiative. It's a radical reimagining of what financial empowerment can and should look like for Black women in America. When most people think about financial advice, they envision spreadsheets, budget templates, and cold clinical discussions about compound interest. But Dr. Johnson's brilliance lies in recognizing something that traditional financial institutions have ignored for generations. For Black women, money isn't just about math, it's about meaning. Let that sink in for a moment. Money isn't just about math, it's about meaning. This insight changes everything. It's the difference between prescribing aspirin for a headache versus understanding why the headache exists in the first place. It's the difference between treating symptoms and addressing root causes. When I asked Dr. Johnson about this during our interview, she leaned forward and said something I'll never forget. When a Black woman looks at her bank account, she's not just seeing numbers. She's seeing her grandmother who cleaned houses so her mother could go to college. She's seeing the aunt who couldn't get a business loan because of redlining. She's seeing the cousin who's counting on her financial support. I felt that statement in my bones. It wasn't just intellectually compelling, it was emotionally true. Think about how revolutionary this perspective is in a financial industry that prides itself on being rational and objective. We're constantly told to separate emotions from financial decisions, as if our feelings are inconvenient obstacles to wealth building rather than essential information about our values and experiences. But Dr. Johnson's research shows that for Black women, especially, emotions aren't obstacles to overcome. They're essential information to understand and integrate. Money carries generations of meaning, cultural expectations, and often unspoken pain that must be addressed alongside practical financial strategies. I witnessed this truth in action when I attended one of Dr. Johnson's workshops. A participant named Maya shared how she'd been saving diligently for years but felt inexplicable anxiety whenever her savings account grew beyond a certain point. Through Dr. Johnson's guidance, Maya realized she was unconsciously recreating a pattern she'd observed in her community growing up, where visible prosperity often invited scrutiny, judgment, or even danger. This wasn't a mathematical problem. No amount of compound interest calculations could address this barrier. It was an emotional, historical, and cultural challenge that required a completely different approach. Through Dr. Johnson's program, women like Maya gain tools to make healthier financial choices, specifically by understanding their emotional relationship with money. This isn't about suppressing feelings to make logical decisions, it's about recognizing how emotions impact financial choices and developing healthy emotional relationships with money to break generational patterns. Another participant described it as finally having someone acknowledge that my complicated feelings about money weren't irrational. They were informed by generations of experience. This brings me to the second critical insight from our conversation. High self esteem and emotional awareness are foundational to financial wellness for Black women. In a world that consistently undervalues Black women's worth, literally through wage gaps and figuratively through cultural messaging, building financial confidence requires addressing self worth first. Dr. Johnson's approach begins not with budgeting techniques, but with exercises that help women recognize their inherent value, separate from their financial status. Only then does she introduce practical financial strategies. When I shared this insight with a colleague, she laughed and said, "So you're telling me I need therapy before I need a financial advisor?" And I said, "Maybe not therapy exactly, but yes, emotional wellness and financial wellness are inseparable, especially for communities that have experienced financial trauma across generations." This approach stands in stark contrast to traditional financial education, which often implicitly blames individuals for their financial struggles without acknowledging systemic barriers or emotional complexities. Dr. Johnson isn't alone in recognizing this gap. Another trailblazer in this space is Anita Knotts, whose Women, Wealth, and Wisdom podcast initiative specifically addresses the unique financial challenges and opportunities for Black women. As a woman of color in a predominantly white male industry, Knotts recognized that standard financial guidance rarely speaks to the lived experiences of Black women. Her podcast has become a sanctuary for thousands of listeners. One woman told me, "It's the first time I've heard financial advice that didn't make me feel like I was doing everything wrong. It's the first time I felt seen in a conversation about money." Think about that for a moment. How many Black women have sat through financial workshops or consultations feeling invisible, misunderstood, or implicitly blamed for their financial circumstances? How many have received advice that fails to acknowledge the unique challenges they face or the strength they bring? This points to a critical gap in financial education, the lack of cultural relevance and representation. When Black women don't see themselves reflected in financial guidance, it creates yet another barrier to engagement. That's what makes the third initiative I learned about through Dr. Johnson so compelling. The Black Art Financial Fitness collaboration with artist Jewel Ham takes an entirely different approach to financial education by integrating artistic expression with financial concepts. Imagine walking into a gallery where paintings, sculptures, and multimedia installations explore concepts like compound interest, debt, wealth building, and financial trauma, all through the lens of Black women's experiences. That's exactly what this innovative initiative created. One installation featured a quilt made from bank statements, pay stubs, and denial letters, stitched together with gold thread, representing how Black women have historically created beauty and value from systems designed to exclude them. Another featured voice recordings of grandmothers and great grandmothers sharing money wisdom that sustained families through economic hardship. A young woman who attended the exhibition told me, "I've avoided thinking about money because it always felt like something that wasn't really for me. But seeing these artists translate financial concepts into our cultural language made me feel like I belong in this conversation too." This innovative initiative recognized that traditional financial education wasn't reaching many younger Black women. By pairing artistic expression with financial concepts, they created more accessible entry points to financial literacy that speak directly to the emotional aspects of money. These approaches all point to the third major insight from my conversation with Dr. Johnson. Financial fitness for Black women is a pathway to collective power, not just individual success. When we talk about financial empowerment for Black women, we're not just talking about individual wealth building, we're talking about creating ripple effects throughout communities and future generations. Dr. Johnson emphasized that when Black women achieve financial empowerment, they typically reinvest in their communities at higher rates than other demographics. They fund businesses, support education, strengthen institutions, and create opportunities for others. This perspective transforms financial empowerment from a potentially self centered pursuit into an act of community care and intergenerational healing. As Dr. Johnson put it, when a Black woman builds wealth with intention and awareness, she's not just changing her own financial trajectory, she's creating new possibilities for everyone connected to her. This collective impact is why the emotional dimensions of money matter so much. When financial education addresses only the mathematical aspects of money management, it misses the opportunity to heal relationships with money that have been shaped by historical and ongoing inequities. But when financial education addresses both practical skills and emotional relationships with money, as Dr. Johnson's program does, it creates space for true transformation. So, what does this mean for us? What does it mean for you, regardless of your gender or racial identity? It means we need to radically reimagine how we think and talk about financial empowerment. It means recognizing that true financial wellness encompasses emotional, cultural, and collective dimensions, not just individual wealth accumulation. For Black women specifically, it means beginning a dual practice of financial and emotional awareness. Start by journaling about your earliest money memories. What did you learn about money growing up? What emotions arise when you think about financial decisions? Identifying these patterns is the first step toward transforming them. It means seeking out financial education that speaks to your specific experiences as a Black woman. Look for advisors, books, podcasts, and communities that understand the unique challenges and opportunities you face. It means recognizing that healing your relationship with money is both a personal journey and a collective act of liberation. Connect with other Black women who are on similar journeys, share resources, insights, and support. Remember that your financial empowerment contributes to community strength. For all of us, it means understanding that money is never just about numbers, it's about values, history, power, and possibility. When we acknowledge the emotional dimensions of financial decisions, we create space for more authentic and effective financial strategies, regardless of our background. I want to leave you with this. Financial liberation for Black women isn't just a matter of economic justice, though it certainly is that. It's a matter of reclaiming narratives, healing intergenerational wounds, and creating new possibilities that extend far beyond bank accounts. The work of Dr. Johnson and other pioneers in this field shows us that another way is possible, a way that honors the full complexity of our relationship with money, a way that recognizes that true wealth includes emotional well being, cultural connection, and collective power. The question isn't whether Black women can achieve financial empowerment. They already are, despite extraordinary obstacles. The question is whether our financial institutions, advisors, and educators will finally catch up to the profound wisdom that Black women have developed about the true nature of wealth. So I challenge you today. How will you redefine your relationship with money? How will you honor both the numbers and the meaning? How will you use financial empowerment not just to build personal wealth, but to create a more just and equitable world for all of us? Because when we get this right, when we truly understand the emotional currency of financial empowerment, we don't just change bank accounts, we change lives, we change communities, we change the future. And that is a currency worth investing in.